Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video by me. Let's take a look at Tibet, another one of Garja's brand new maps. Here we have it. Clearly a quite cold, snowy region, illustrated by the tile set and the trees and the choice of animals that you immediately see nearby. Certainly the ibex, the big horns, the yaks. Let's resign and take a look around. Geographically accurate, I must say, because of, well, the things we just pointed out, but certainly the big cliffs. Definitely a mountainous region is Tibet, and clearly it's basically like you're fighting on a big mountain. That's basically what it is. You can see this giant mountainous ring around the entire map with a couple of entrances for those of you who are going to do some counting and work out how many entrances there are and where they spawn. They're adding in another one so things like this doesn't happen. Sometimes there's no direct exit behind your base, but that'll be fixed. Of course, when there's no direct exit behind your base, it makes it quite tough to hurt these. But things like that will be fixed in the final version. It's an extra exit, as I just said. But then, so the players are starting on this ring. And then there's another sort of inner ring, so it gets even taller, even higher up. It's definitely like fighting on a mountain. It's basically Tibet, which is, I guess, what they were, or what Garja was aiming for when he made it. Absolutely love the idea for this map. It's interesting because normally this is, this would qualify for what I would sort of classify as a standard map, regular starting crates, regular sort of starting resources, they're here, quite a fairly generous herd, coin mine. There is, you start with yaks, which isn't particularly normal, but I don't really think it changes the game that much, starting with a little bit of livestock. I mean, there are plenty of maps with livestock on that you find, and it's sort of no different, like Mongolia, for example, that's no different from having extra yaks, and finally having access to this small, well, that's normally a coin treasure, but here perhaps not. It's a monkey treasure, which is sometimes good, and a trading site as well. All of those things: trading site, coin treasure for nice hunting dogs, and just normal resource, and all things I would call standard. But this is clearly not standard and does not result in standard games because of this wall. This sort of, what this happened, if your opponent forward base is in the middle and wants to rush you, you just like, lol, or just wall up this exit here. And that increases the rush distance dramatically, and then clearly they'll either have to take this exit here, well, they wouldn't use this one, it's quite far away. They might, if they're trying to trick you, but unlikely. Most likely you'll expect raids coming from this side. You might want to build your base accordingly. It's super interesting. And from competitive games on this, from H2O and among others, we've seen that actually these hunt in the back, which did not spawn particularly well for purple, are very, very safe. Very, very safe hunt. So I don't know if you could necessarily get away with like a super boom, like say British, but it's interesting to think like how you can sort of play with the terrain here, and apparently some really, really interesting games have happened. People playing Sioux on this map and just running around for several minutes. I mean, that does sound kind of annoying, but at the top level, if you're well, in a regular game, if they're doing that, you've probably won, and it's just irritating people who do that anyway. But at top level, definitely Sioux was still in the game, moving around a lot, and apparently they did like a couple of full circles around before they managed to finally start playing again, just moving the villagers around and stuff like that. I think Boneng could see some interesting games with his playstyle. He's very good at having lots of different things on the map in absolutely every location and sort of micromanaging. That's his style. Certainly seen that from a couple of games. Anyway, this is Tibet. Let's talk about the resource distribution and the native villagers, and then we can conclude. So, you start with a fairly generous starting hunt, as I mentioned, and a single mine, a silver mine, and 3 yaks. So both players get this, so good starting resources, you're going to be able to do whatever you want to do. And then nearby there'll always be sort of a hunt, or 2 hunts, I guess, on the plateau. For each player that you can herd, and then there's always a herd in the middle. So you've always got 2 on the herd, and then there's about 1 in the middle. So that might be a third hunt if you want it to be. But obviously the one in the middle there is contestable and it sort of encourages map control. Behind you also have hunt. Here we have a spawn here and 1 here. As often spawns right outside your sort of exit. Didn't happen for purple. This would probably have to be rehosted. This particular spawn. As a lot of maps, can't be 100% accurate 100% of the time, but Garja's maps certainly a lot more consistent with their hunt spawns and mine spawns, etc., than a lot of the standard ES maps. But you got some hunt behind you as well, and yeah, coin mine distribution is good. You don't really need to look at that on Garja's maps, honestly. And the final thing here is We'll start with the Udasi Temple and then move on to the Bhakti. So, what do we have here? Well, Punjabi New Year, price 175 food and coin, increases the gather rates from mills, plantations, farms, cherry orchards, mango groves, and rice paddies. That is by 10%, which is fairly reasonable for a 10% upgrade. And by the time you're making mills and plantations, this is definitely worth getting because it's fairly costed, I would say. Because of that, it's like economic theory. Once you've got all those buildings up for this price, which is pretty good. By that time, you won't be gathering from hunts anyway. Army of the Pure, 225 food and coin, increases chakram range and line of sight. That is by 4. The thing is, you just probably not going to see chakram, so this upgrade is redundant and won't see play. Let's talk about the chakram now before we go on to that final upgrade. He is 50 wood and 100 food, so actually not terrible because he costs mostly food. The less wood, the better, but still costs wood, which, as we know, is the slowest gathering resource and is the most expensive to upgrade. Let's take a look at the stats. 165 HP, 50% range resist, and 18 range, with an area effect of 2. Clearly a Grenadier-style unit, but without the siege damage. So, in theory, for that reason, it's not terrible. We've seen Grenadiers good against Russia, as Yimiu illustrated to us in one of the grudge match SmackDown. But you're gonna have better units at your regular base to make out of these resources, so unlikely to see play. But I don't know, maybe there'll be some interesting AZAC-style builds, who knows. As I keep saying, I'd love to see a map that incentivizes native play. I really would. Like, maybe starting with a native traveler, as I've mentioned before. The final upgrade, 100 food and hook coin. This one's actually not bad. Increases explorer hit points by 50%, which is quite a lot if you have a war chief or a Chinese monk. For a fairly small cost, but the thing is, it involves building a 200 wood trading post. So, unless you're going to be getting other upgrades as well, then probably unlikely to see. By the way, is there like a chakram shipment for one of the native civs, one of the Asian civs? I know there is Tiger Claw shipment, which brings us on nicely to Tiger Claws at the other temple. Maybe you could get like the upgrades and then send Tiger Claws or something. I don't know. Maybe on a map where anyway. Never mind. Vegetarianism increases berry gather rates by 40%. Not too good, unfortunately, because there are no berries on this map at all. This one increases cavalry and infantry hit points. Quite expensive for what it does. Only increases by 5%, but super late game, like any other upgrade, is, every upgrade you can get your hands on is good. But again, expensive, not going to see play early game, and because it's... Tiger Claw attack increased for this. Perhaps we'll... if people make Tiger Claws. But, they're not bad either for their stats. But they are expensive and they cost wood. That's me done on Tibet. Show guys some love. Absolutely many lots, possibly hundreds of hours put into making all of these different maps. Tibet, looking forward to seeing this. It's gonna be good. Download link in the description below.